Hey guys, welcome to Talk and Roll Express episode 11, In Your House Unforgiven, presented by Lewis, Thomas, Oliver and Cammy. A few facts about Unforgiven before we begin. It was the 21st edition of the In Your House pay-per-view, produced by World Wrestling Federation at the time. It was preceded by No Way Out of Texas, and it would be followed by Over the Edge. It occurred on April 26, 1998 at the Greensboro Coliseum in North Carolina. It drew an audience of 21,427 people. It was made up of 7 matches, giving it a runtime of 2 hours and 42 minutes. On commentary, you've got good old JR and the King. Match-wise, you have Farouk, Ken Shamrock and Steve Blackman versus the Nation of Domination, Triple H versus Owen Hart for the European title, the New Midnight Express versus the Rock and Roll Express for the NWA Tag Team titles, Lena Vachon versus Sable in an evening gown match, New Age Outlaws versus the Legion of Doom 2000 for the tag team titles, Undertaker versus Kane in the first ever Inferno match, and in the main event, Dude Love versus Steve Austin for the world title.
Right, guys, initial impressions of this pay-per-view.
This was a completely different late 90s In Your House for me, because this is one that started well for me, and by the end of it, I was just, I can't believe I got to the end of it, to be honest. This is the first time I've been watching a pay-per-view and thought, you know what, I'm just going to turn it off and just nod politely when we get to the main event. Like, yeah, I really agree that, you know, Dude Love and Steve Austin getting married in the main event was just perfect for the Attitude Era, and I'd have believed it, man. It was just one of those. I was just like, Jesus Christ. I really enjoyed the start of it, and I was like really getting into it. But by the end, it was just like, fuck me. Like, I can't believe I do this as a hobby.
I had a lot of fun with this pay-per-view. I thought it was fairly solid for the most part. A couple of missteps, but I disagree. Towards the end, I enjoyed it, the whole thing. I loved the main event. I loved the Inferno match. We'll get to that later, obviously, but yeah, I really enjoyed this pay-per-view, especially in light of recent ones we've watched.
Well, yes. Yeah. Sorry, Cammy. Just like, yeah, backed it up. It's still not the worst one I've watched.
I think as far for me, I watched this to death. It was one of the few tapes I had when I was younger, and you know, nostalgia's a hell of a thing. I think from a production point of view, this was massive. You can tell this is the start of a new dawn. It's to me, this is kind of the start of the Attitude Era sort of thing, and I think the production reflects that. That classic thing I bang on about all the time, you know, match quality is certainly lacking in here, but I did remain to slightly entertained throughout, and I was kind of consistently pulled in by the booking across the show and the promos and stuff like that. I didn't mind this at all.
I agree strongly with Cameron saying that the production design feels very, very kind of revisionist. It's a big leap forward, obviously, from even before Mania 14. My favourite thing was the new intro that we get. We get the glitchy kind of Matrix so new intro, which I really it did not feel out of place. It felt very, very good. I feel like we should move on to the opening package now. My goodness, you know, epic is a word that gets thrown around a lot nowadays, but this is just, I mean, nothing screams, you know, big scale like not 1, not 2, not 3, but 5 separate quotes by Dante from Inferno, narrated by classy Freddie Blassie, no less. This already feels like a breath of fresh air since No Way Out. It feels like around about when we'll get into the 96, 97 Shawn-centric pay-per-views, it feels nice that even though this is the first pay-per-view of the Austin era, funnily enough, Austin and Dude Love aren't featured in the opening package. It's all, you know, ice and fire, Undertaker again, red versus blue, day versus night, and all this kind of stuff. What did you make of the guy? What did you guys make of the opening package?
I think for me, this, obviously we've been watching WWE, WWF for weeks and weeks now. This feels like WWF, and that translates through the whole of the pay-per-view for me. I think because obviously we talk about nostalgia, we talk about us growing up watching wrestling. Obviously, I do remember Vince McMahon, the character, as opposed to Vince McMahon, the announcer, and this was reflected in the opening package. This felt like WWF/E for me.
Mm-hmm. I like the package. You said they mentioned the kind of Dante quotes in that, and I also love the fact that it's very aware that it's talking to a wrestling audience. So not only does it quote Dante, it tells you it's Dante's Inferno, just in case you don't know.
To be fair, I was glad they did. I'm just imagining like a Russo type in the backstage just going, yeah, that'll fucking show him. You know, just writing it down, think, yeah, brain's so big.
Bro,
such good shit.
Bro.
To me, this is it's an interesting point in wrestling wherein before this point you relied purely on the characters and performers to convey the gravitas of a storyline or a situation, and this is when the stars start to align and production meets it. Currently, I actually feel that we're living in an era wherein the production is unfortunately bunked the Bronco and headed straight, it's to the forefront, and there's too much of a focus on that. But we're in this beautiful era that we're walking into, wherein there's a perfect marriage of someone backstage being able to just convey a gravity of even a gimmick match on a B pay-per-view kind of thing, and the performers are just as strong. The performers are just as strong to be able to carry it home. So I'm quite excited for these next few pay-per-views.
I feel like regardless of how much we talk up or talk down the pay-per-view, we can agree that is one very lazy set design.
Oh God!
This is the third time in a row, to my knowledge, that they've done the mesh gate thing.
I think as well, again, talking about nostalgia in the future, in later years we are spoiled with set designs as well. Like, again, talking about the mid-2000s, I remember those Raw and SmackDown sets being absolutely perfect. Again, that's the enforced nostalgia, but they were just absolutely brilliant. And when you look at this, it's just lazy. Yeah, it is just really, really lazy. You go to all this effort to making things like Inferno matches, to putting your video packages together, to trying to be the company, and then you just phone in the set design. It doesn't make sense. It's if you're going to go over the top with shit like this, go all in with it.
What?
Do you think regarding the set design though that it's deliberate in the idea that it's supposed to look kind of real, so to speak, quite grungy, quite urban? It's kind of like the mesh design. That's like a I don't know. I can't think of the right word for it, but it's supposed to look some kind of like real, the streets, for example, rather than a big cartoon set like a fire and stuff.
Yeah,
you're right. I do agree. It does seem quite lazy, and you want to see some kind of spectacle, but I think they're trying to kind of tap into this whole "look how real we are, bro" type idea.
It's definitely a left turn. I think what's important is to remember what WCW was at this point. They've had a fantastic budget and they utilised it very, very well. So maybe they were just trying to be the alternative kind of thing, even if arguably the alternative was a little bit shit. I think it's still different. There's a clear difference between both products.
To me, it kind of looked like they went a little bit too far with the little grunge aesthetic. It's like they've took the No Way Out of Texas set and okay, now just add moss. Like there's all this green stuff that they've got hanging off the gate, and I'm just wondering, like, is it supposed to be like a swamp reference because they're in Carolina, or like what is it?
I think it's the minimalism of it. It's grunge, but it's like fucking Nirvana with just like Chris Novoselic.
Maybe one way to look at it is to reference Thomas from the other week there and remind ourselves that grunge has literally been dead at this point for 4 years. So they're well past it at that point. And I mean, let's remember I'm not sure I think the theme is the same. It's not just a network dub. It's basically a cheesy free version of U2's Desire. None of it lines up. I think there is a hint of laziness all over that, but at the end of the day, they make up for it with beautiful video packages and one hell of a program, multiple programs for us to enjoy. So,
yeah, considering the federations or the company's relationship with Metallica in recent years, that they seem to be like just cherry picking songs I've hardwired. They don't use the Unforgiven once during this pay-per-view.
Yeah, again, that feels like a misstep, as silly as it sounds.
Right, well, let's get into our first match then, shall we? Nation of Domination versus Shamrock, Farouk and Blackman. Now, we get a new Nation of Domination theme, very jazzy, and we get Dwayne sporting the new IC title since Mania 14. What would you guys have done with The Rock around about this point? Do you think he still needed the rub of being with the Nation, or do you think he would have just let him free?
I think what they're doing is perfect because it doesn't need the Nation at this point, but there's no reason to rush the storyline because he comes into the Nation as a no mark, and then it just slowly takes over due to his popularity as a heel and he's just natural charisma and the fact he's clearly going to be the guy. There's no stopping him. So you've got him in a space of a few months, from September to here, joining the Nation, bit of power struggle, and now he's took it over and split it up. And you're right, he doesn't need the Nation at this point. He doesn't need a faction, but he's the leader of the faction here. He's not just in the Nation, he's the leader. So it's this natural progression to him. They've been careful with him, they've been slowly with his progression, they're not rushing it. So I think we've done really well.
I agree with that. I think as well he's perfectly capable on his own, but at the same time he has the Nation to bounce off. He's on the way to becoming the guy, but he still has that comfort blanket of being able to bounce off being in a faction as well. Yeah. So yeah, they're doing the right thing. Again, it's easy to look with hindsight how big The Rock got and be like, well, yeah, maybe you just put him out on his own. But I think for the moment in time, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also,
sorry.
No, so I was just going to say, it's like, in fact, there's nothing wrong with a cowardly heel having his backup.
Yeah, and speaking of that backup, I mean, Mark Henry certainly needed the rub at this point, other than his supposed World's Strongest Man title. He's got nothing else going for him, and it's the same at this point for D'Lo Brown, so it's helping them. There's nothing else The Rock could have been doing at the time, really, because all the sort of other big names he was going up against were kind of tied up and needed to do their own programs. So for once they got the timing. I think I would never have changed a single step in The Rock's trajectory, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and as you say there, Cam, it's not kind of case that the Nation's getting The Rock the rub. The Rock is getting the Nation the rub just by association.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to talk about was Shamrock. Shamrock's music hit, and I think this is the third or fourth time I've noticed this, where they're expecting to keep cutting to the crowd whenever Shamrock's music hits, and I think they're expecting like this big Mexican wave to just occur. Like they're expecting him to be so much more over than he actually is. It's a shame because it's a very, very nice theme, and it does, have that big fight feel to it, but it's not there. The crowd.
I keep expecting them to have the response. Every time. I'm disappointed every time we watch one of these.
If you go back and watch the Mania 14 match, there's like, they cut across the audience expecting, the big Mexican wave, and there's just like one guy in the front row who's like, yay!
That would be me.
I'd have joined you in that one.
There's not much to say about this team of Shamrock and Farouk, etc. Really, is there? Who? Steve Blackman. God.
This is the first time we've seen Steve Blackman.
I got really excited when I saw Steve Blackman.
What did
How
we make?
disappointed were you?
I was well up for it. I fucking love Steve Blackman.
I'm the same. I love Steve Blackman, and I mean, here's a guy that was genuinely legit.
Yeah.
An actual killer. Him and Shamrock at any point could just went into business for themselves, and nobody could have stopped him. I mean, Shamrock's the guy that battered the Big Show backstage because he was annoying them.
Was the story not that he was laying on his back, according to Ted Long in the locker room, and yet Steve Blackman managed to take him down with a double leg takedown without ever leaving his back?
The story I heard, something like the Big Show kept annoying them and kept kind of like slapping them and hitting them and stuff. He's like, look, fuck off, I'm not in the mood. He's like, and I think it was Jericho was talking about it. He said, look down, and they looked back up, and the Big Show was in the flare screaming.
There is an interview with Shamrock when he was on Vinny Roo's podcast, and he was saying, like, if there was one guy that could have taken you to town, who would it have been? And he paused for a minute, and obviously, Shamrock has a lot of pride. He said, I was not going to say anybody willy-nilly, and he went, I suppose it would have been Steve Blackman.
Yeah, I mean, there's a story as well where I love it. It's in Hardcore Holly's book, actually. Steve Blackman and Bradshaw. And Pritchard talks about it in his podcast as well, and he was saying Bradshaw and Blackman going to have kind of heated discussions, obviously, at the airport. And Blackman said, I'm going to kill you. And he's like, oh, don't be like that, is this? No, I'm going to kill you. So Bradshaw's ready to fight. And he's like, no, not now. At some point, I'm going to kill you. And I'll let you know I'm coming. I'm not going to attack you. I'm not going to sucker punch you. But I'm just letting you know. So Bradshaw is terrified, like legitimately terrified. Pritchard finds out, he's like, right, guys, let's talk this over. And they did, to be fair, the two of them spoke it over, and Bradshaw apologised, and Blackman went, okay, it's fine. He was kind of put his ego away and stuff like that. But yeah, Blackman was just something to mess with. And on paper, this team look amazing. I mean, having Blackman and Shamrock in the same team alone is just money for me. And I know Farouk's noticed actually in favour of the company at this point in terms of the star power. To me, he's always going to be Ron Simmons, and the fact that he's got a lot of history.
Yeah.
So, and to be honest with you, when this match, before the match started, and the Nation music hit, I almost just instantly skipped it, expecting the Los Pericos or the DOA to follow after.
It's nice to see something different. Myself, I was quite disappointed until I found, well, Steve Blackman, he's just as over with myself. I found that he was quite green in this. There was a lot of really daft mistakes, and being a man who is a lethal weapon, a mistake could be lethal in itself. So I was kind of just like, every time, wincing myself. Apparently Shamrock was operating with torn ligaments at this point, and he had only found out within 24 hours. I was disappointed not to see much movement from him, but after finding that out, I'm thankful that was the case. My understanding of Farouk at this point is that he had already, might not have been in favour as far as star power, but my understanding of it is that they certainly appreciated him giving the Nation their first initial rub. I think when he agreed to join the Fed again after becoming the first world heavyweight champion who was African American in WCW, he was only meant to be there for 4 months, and I think this is roughly a couple of years later, at least, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So this is him trying to bow out and put people over as he's going out, and I mean that didn't go well for him. I'm pretty sure he stuck about with the APA after that as well.
That's a good point, actually.
I just imagine him constantly turning around and going, "I'm too old for this shit."
It's a fair point. Actually, I kind of forget the kind of point in his career he's at. He is on the wind down. As you say, he did stay out with the APA for a while after, but I mean, that was just more a gimmick than anything. It
was great, though.
It was awesome. It was awesome.
Well, one of the things I picked up on was Dan Severn actually gets a shout out from Jim Ross in commentary. And I'm watching this match and seeing the Nation in like Godfather, and I'm assuming he's Godfather kind of now because he's wearing the Godfather get up. But why wasn't this a 4-on-4? You could have included the Godfather and have Severn in there.
Severn had he was working for the UFC and the NWA and WWF simultaneously, so it's likely a booking situation. Although I probably referenced Dan Severn once in episodes, the actual amount of times he showed up to a show, never mind the pay-per-view, was minimal, and it was not off his own back, it was just due to his diary.
Mm-hmm. There's a spot later on where Farouk starts whipping D'Lo, and there's like a mammoth crowd reaction from this. This is the most into it the crowd actually gets. One of the things I actually found super interesting was there's a guy holding up a Confederate flag in the background, and he starts cheering for Farouk at one point. I'm like, pick a side, man.
I didn't even notice that. It was definitely spot of the match, other than obviously the couple of times that The Rock actually tagged in. I was also happy to see D'Lo. I think he even at this point he's past the point of green, and he's got some movement on him himself. It wouldn't be a podcast episode if I didn't reference again Jerry Lawler bringing up Catch as Catch Can to someone who definitely doesn't even know what that is. He says he's tried to put over D'Lo's Catch as Catch Can credentials, and I'm just, you're looking at him and his body popping at the time, and I'm like, are you for real right now, son? Are you for real? But there's not much to say about this one, unfortunately, and I think that's just it. On paper, I think we're all expecting a barnstormer, and in reality, due to some outside situations, it was a bit of a letdown.
It wasn't too bad for me. It was an opening match, if that makes sense. it didn't get me hot, but at the same time I wasn't overly disappointed with it. But I think as well, from obviously past episodes, I'm not expecting too much from a 3-on-3 match involving the Nation as well. But I was very over with the team of Steve Blackman, Ken Shamrock, and Farouk. You could have put anyone in place of Farouk for me.
Yeah, I quite enjoyed the match. It was fun. It was quite hard hitting. It was a really strange spot that the commentators I think dropped the ball with when Shamrock's trying to tag Farouk in, and Farouk's pointing at Blackman, and it's almost like he's trying to kind of show like I'm in charge of this team, but the commentators don't pick up on it. It just looks really weird.
I felt like it was legitimately a botch. Like Blackman's reaction to me was one of genuine confusion, and then straight after that is when they hit the spot with the belt. So to me, that was the next step.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then they just kind of forgot when they were to get it over, kind of thing. That's what I felt, kind of thing. But either way, that would have meant the commentary team kind of failed in trying to cover that up a little bit, because they could have turned it around and said something like that, but they didn't. It just looked awkward. I gave this a 2 out of 5.
Yeah, I give it a 2 out of 5 as well. I didn't love it as much as the No Way Out of Texas match, although I'm chalking it up to fan response, because it was more or less the same kind of moveset dynamic. But there's still some pleasant stuff in there, but yeah, 2 out of 5.
I'll go 2.5 out of 5. It's perfectly workable and serviceable opening match for me.
I give it a 3. I enjoyed it.
I like a more fast-paced opener, to be honest with you, and I did feel like this kind of ground to a halt at one point. And then in its defence, when you're talking about crowd reaction, I felt like the crowd were tepid most of the night, but as I got towards the main event, and obviously you're waiting for the Austin pop, I felt that was a bit quiet too, so I don't know if that's like a sound mixing thing, really.
I'm just giving it an extra star based on the fact that the DOA will nowhere near it.
TB, yep, okay, 2.5.
Should have been Taka and Aguilar round 2.
Oh, yes.
Immediately after this, we get the Stone Cold and Mark Heaton segment. We get a very awkward cut from Michael Cole and JR to this. Austin automatically gets the crowd unglued and promptly decides to beat up a child with a mustache. Mark Heaton, I can't get over how much. I don't know if you're familiar with. There's an American series called Nathan For You, with this guy called Nathan Fielder.
Yeah,
and Mark Heaton is the spitting image. He might actually be the father of Nathan Fielder. Like, I could not get over just the resemblance there. Really uncanny.
Got an idea for a match, Vince. Mm-hmm. We're going to set one of your talent on fire.
Is Austin the only babyface in company history that could threaten to beat up a ring announcer and get a cheer?
Yes.
Austin could have walked out of the ring and kicked a puppy into the crowd and people would have cheered. Not just because it's North Carolina.
I think there was a certain point for Roddy Piper. I feel like he was ahead of his time. It wasn't the same reaction, but he was the original anti-hero. I don't care what anyone else says.
That's a brilliant point. Fucking love Piper, man.
Yeah. Well, there's the WrestleMania 21 Piper's Pit, where they come face to face and they try to make it that moment, but Piper looks half cut, and it kind of isn't. But oh well, we love you, man. R.I.P. Rip in peace.
Yeah, F in the chat for Big Roddy.
Immediately after this, we get a Triple H versus Owen Hart. We get the Triple H DX entrance, complete with recycled Chris Warren footage. I know this is going to sound ridiculous, but I know he's been in the company for 3 years. But was it too soon to make Paul the head of DX? Was it like because it seems like they're trying to embrace him for Sean's spot, more or less?
I think it was a necessity because Sean was gone.
Yeah.
I think they didn't want to lose DX, and out of all of them, Triple H is the most natural leader of DX.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have made China the leader of DX, but it feels like in 1998 that would have gone down like a shit in a lift.
Yeah.
It's one of those. It feels like if the world was a different place and WWE was a different company, you could have made China the leader of DX and really, really fucking run with China, like just taking, even like had like fucking fight Austin or something. That is real high pie in the sky thinking. But you could have really pushed her as a genuine takes all comers talent as the head of DX. But yeah, for the company at the time, the fact Sean has gone, he's the de facto leader of DX for me.
Important to mention that just because it was a necessity doesn't mean it wouldn't have been jarring for the crowds, because obviously at the time the vast majority of the audience wouldn't have been aware of the backstage politics and why Sean's sudden exit was long overdue, sort of thing. I think they done the exact right thing in bringing Waltman back when they did, because he hadn't been away so long. He was on television with the other crowd anyway, so he was definitely over. Got a great response when he came back. Yeah. And I can't help but feel that they had that in mind, because as far as I'm aware, Waltman offered to come back earlier and the Fed totally sandbagged it, but all of a sudden Sean's away, they're like, right, we need to figure this out, and I'm pretty sure he got a damn good deal out of it as a result. So, go kid.
Yeah, I agree with all that as well. And it makes sense. It makes sense to just have Hunter as a leader here. He's a natural successor to Sean. Natural successor to Sean. Try and say that fast.
Secession with Brian Cox.
National successor to Sean.
That's yours.
We have to talk about the special stipulation here, which is putting China in a cage.
No, we don't.
Wasn't there an easier way to write her out of the match?
A steel cage.
You could have
Yeah.
not had her at the ring.
Yeah.
This seems very Russo, almost.
Very much so.
Lock her in the toilet.
You're not going to rest until this is over.
It's the one size fits all solution, man. Lock her in the toilet.
I am not against the idea of putting somebody in a cage and suspending them above the ring, but there was. And then I'm going to sound like everybody's dad here. I just feel there was no need for how dangerous that spot was.
Oh yeah.
Can I just point?
Can we
point out
inside the cage and she's swinging?
Yeah.
It's above a concrete floor.
We've got a questionable aerial stunt in a segment that includes Owen fucking Hart.
No, easy.
No, but this is the point. This is the context for which we are in right now.
Yeah.
I couldn't help but think about it in hindsight. And I would love to know a little bit more backstage about, it did seem Doffy choreographed with and I'd written it from memory. As far as I remember from watching the tape as a child, I don't remember them cutting to Road Dogg in the crowd, lowering the cage. I just remember the cage being lowered after she was hanging off of it. And then I listened to Brucey Boy Pritchard, and he totally glossed over it too, focusing on how safe the Inferno match was. It was a bit suspect to me, but Jesus Christ, gimmicks are us tonight. I struggled with this.
Yeah, I thought the match was fine, but I thought the match was fine between Hunter and Owen. I think Owen deserved a lot better in his return in terms. I know it's hard to say that because it was in a kind of, obviously Sean being away, he couldn't have that feud, and I just kind of feel that he was getting buried quite a lot by DX's return. It was almost like, okay, we could make you this total badass to avenge your brother, or we could just fuck you over.
Apparently, he wanted the screwed angle. He wanted to work the Austin angle that is happening now with the screwing and stuff. He felt like that would have been more explosive, is what I've read.
Oh my god, that would have worked so well.
Yeah.
As well, the brother of Bret Hart taking on Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
As revenge for what happened in real life, but also, in the storyline, what happened to his brother. And he seems to see,
yeah.
Oh, God. I just
actually,
can't wait until Vince dies.
I think that the whole screw thing in this pay-per-view goes down like a lead balloon, to be honest with you. I was not into it, and I'm not sure if that's just because I'm thinking about Money in the Bank with Cena and Punk, where I think they actually played that pretty damn well, and I'm comparing the two. But I think even Meltzer, when he was writing about this pay-per-view, noted about the fact of how lukewarm the crowd was towards all this. I think it's mostly, personally, I think it's down to because the production works great. We've went over the video packages. That's very good. But to me, Vince is not Mr. McMahon yet. He doesn't know how to be Mr. McMahon. He's coming out and he's pretty well spoken. He's just Vince. He's not got the voice yet.
Yeah.
He's not got the attitude kind of thing. No pun intended. But
I mean, it's
I
worth
think,
so it's worth noting as well that Vince believed he was going to be the babyface out of all this.
Why not?
You kind of mentioned it, kind of, but he's not got his kind of villain persona down yet. He's probably still thinks maybe the crowd are going to be into me. You know, I'm the guy that screwed Brett. That surely gives me some brownie points. Somehow in my twisted fucking head.
well,
That's
you
just
can,
classic Vince, isn't it?
yeah. Well, to be fair, you can kind of see it because Austin, in a traditional sense, is working heel, but he's over. So technically, Vince here is working face, and he's not over. Or he's, but I think that's the problem. There's a difference between over and, getting the job done sort of thing. Like, he's not getting a reaction. He's not even getting boos, and that's the problem kind of thing. But it won't be long, and obviously it worked out in the end, so what the hell do I know?
I feel like it's incredibly jarring seeing Owen Hart with a scratchy logo. Like, it just never fits right to me. I just think the little New Generation logo in the background. I know that's a weird little thing to pick up on. It just seems incredibly out of place.
I think that's a testament to how underutilized he is during this period, though.
Yeah, but I think Paul and Owen have a pretty good rapport in the ring. I think these guys have worked with one another enough times to the point where it's silly fluid. But I think the thing that really undermines it is it's not China, but it's the special effect of having China just dangling above the head. Like, you see the camera it can't stop itself. It's like keeps focusing on China above the ring.
Well, otherwise it's pointless.
Well, yeah, but I'm only talking about like cutting to it maybe 2 or 3 times throughout the match. I mean, it's like it's all China. It's all a China.
It's all China.
Yeah. Again, Triple H, not 1, not 2, but really 3 smosh finishes to get us, because you have Road Dogg lower in the cage, you have China distracting the ref, and then you have X-Pac running in with a fire extinguisher. It's like, why not drop a bank vault on him and set a fucking T-Rex on Owen Hart while you're at it? Because it's like...
Because that would be 2008 DX.
But Paul, they want the new HBK, and having 3 smosh finishes does absolutely nothing for Paul. I think it actually hurt both of them during this match. I'm really disappointed with the truth. I'm going to give it 2 out of 5.
How much?
2 out of 5.
2 out of 5. I was the same.
See, I want to give it a 3 for the in-ring work of the 2 guys, but all the nonsense kind of hurt it from me to the point that it was forgettable in the way that I actually forgot half the stuff you mentioned there, and I watched the match like yesterday.
Yeah. Sorry, Tom, go on, mate.
No, so that's me, mate.
Yeah, it's just the same. I really enjoyed the match itself, but yeah, just why is China in a shark cage suspended above the ring? Why is Road Dogg now lowering her down? Why have you turned what could just genuinely be a good barnstormer of a match into a fucking circus? Which I suppose is, we could just stop the podcast now and every week just release one of us saying, why have you got to ruin a genuinely good match by turning it into a circus? Yeah, and then we're sorted for like the WWF.
Wait until we cover the last half of WCW.
You could have still had a Smosh finish. You could still have somebody come in with a fire extinguisher, a bell, anything. You could still have anything that gets the Owen Hart giving that promo at the end, but he's hinting at a heel turn. You can still have all that. You just don't need all that absolute madness that's going on. Yeah.
Well, I never knew that Owen sweared during his entire WWF tenure, but his use of the word bullshit here was just super effective, wasn't it? I mean, it was.
Yeah. I can see, like, whenever I imagine you watching an Attitude Era promo, I see you in like your new gen jammers, just sitting there like, no, Owen, don't do it,
clutching at my pearls.
Your Bret Hart shades on.
And the Vader t-shirt. Yeah, sure. Let's go on to the next match, shall we? New Midnight Express versus the Rock and Roll Express. Now, Cornette immediately comes out and, to his credit, cuts a scathing promo on Carolinians, and the first thing I thought was, how good would it have been if this guy had stayed on and been like part of the corporation in '99?
Oh, yeah.
That's the only good thing about this match, is that comment you just made.
Yeah.
Well, Apparently, story time. The big rumor mill of the moment was that Ric Flair was going to show up.
Ooh.
Now, the way that Jim Cornette tells it is that Rick was circling the arena all night thinking, do I go in? But I don't think it was as cartoonish as that. I think he either decided to go or not. But apparently Rick at this point is at his lowest with WCW and was thinking of leaving. Now, I'll put to all of you, we have been watching this NWA angle for a while now. I still can't believe Cornette thinks it's going to get put over. How effective would it be if fucking Rick shown up and then done the invasion angle then with the NWA?
Well, I mean, it's Greensboro Coliseum. It is Ric Flair's backyard, isn't it?
Exactly, exactly.
Again, it's one of those, it just feels like an absolutely missed opportunity. And now when you think of someone like Ric Flair, someone with the prestige and, you know, the grandeur, he's a superstar. And yeah, he has had such a rough ride at certain points of his career. Why would you not just offer him a route out? Because, yeah, again, that angle would have gone absolutely supersonic.
Yeah.
If you bring Ric fucking Flair to your pay-per-view...
in Greensboro.
I mean,
yeah.
Even now, if you took me... I know he's a bit more involved, but even now, if you took me to a pay-per-view and had Ric Flair show up unannounced... I would shit my brains out my eyes.
Game over.
Yeah.
So apparently I have definitely oversold it, because what they were planning on doing was this was booked as a wrestling match. So what they were going to do is Rick was going to sit at ringside with his son. I can't remember the fella's name, the one that died. I don't think it was Rich, but anyway, his son, who was an amateur wrestler, and then someone was going to go over, and then they would just slowly walk past Rick, not even acknowledge him, and then put the mic to his son and go, "You're an amateur wrestler, what did you think about this match?" And he'd go, "It was great." And then they'd go, "Back to you," and then they would just cut. They weren't actually going to have Flair do anything, because technically he was under contract with WCW at this point.
Yeah,
God,
I'm glad that never happened.
That was what they were talking about doing, apparently. I've totally oversold it, but I was too busy.
I'd have bought him out. You still could have got Flair's best years out of him if you'd bought him out his contract, and he's Ric Flair.
I think it would have worked well if that was the first sighting of Flair, almost like back in SummerSlam. Where's Taker? And you've got the fella looking after him. What's his name from Naked Gun? Kind of thing.
Nielsen.
Yeah, Leslie Nielsen, but he's searching for Ric Flair. Just have him standing there with a little smirk on his face and don't even acknowledge him and just pan past. That would have been kind of cool if it led to something, but I don't know legally if it would have, because that's the very reason as to why they didn't do it, is because they were conservative.
I think again it's hindsight, because if you'd have done that as the first inkling of the invasion as well, you'd look back on that like it was like a fucking Marvel film or something.
Yeah.
It'd literally be like that Leonardo DiCaprio meme where you're like pointing at the screen. It's like, that's where the invasion began, man. But yeah,
the greatest nudge nudge wink wink cameo since Danny Glover seen the Xenomorph skull in Predator 2.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But again, obviously, even the fact that we've oversold it a bit, because as soon as you said the plan was for Ric Flair to be there, my idea was he'd just walk in and just lock everybody in the figure four. That's just me running away with myself. But I do think the angle of just panning the camera to him, I think he's got to give a cheeky wink. There's got to be a cheeky wink in there. But again, that people would have gone absolutely ape.
The reason I brought that up is because I have nothing else to talk about, even though I am usually the guy trying to put this over. I can completely understand why Russo hated Cornette's guts, because even at this point I'm questioning, for reals, man, realsies, did you think this would work? Even in Greensboro, like I was surprised by the response to Rock and Roll. No, I wasn't surprised. They got a response.
Yeah.
And that in itself would be surprising on any other night, but it wasn't a great response. It was like, "Oh, I know you," and that was about it. And then it just...
I mean, it doesn't really help as well that you've got Bob Holly and Bart Gunn taking the place of Bobby Eaton and Dennis Condrey, who it's held up as like one of the ultimate workhorses.
Yeah.
That's Bill Watts' Mid-South. I mean, if you go and you watch any kind of like Steve Austin's podcast or Arn Anderson's podcast, they will tell you like Bobby Eaton was the ultimate workhorse.
Yeah.
Like, he belongs as like the fourth face on any kind of Mount Rushmore. And I think it's the same because he's one of those guys as well that never ever gets the credit he's due.
The Midnight Express and Rock and Roll Express feud was meant to be one of the greatest of all time, but I think that this just shows the Fed's hubris, because there's a number of examples in the 90s where they replace an actual person, like they give a gimmick to someone else, expecting it to get over, and obviously it never works. And when I say their hubris, just their complete lack of respect for the talent that put those characters over in the first place. That's what really killed this for me, to be honest with you. Normally, I would jokingly be trying to put anything NWA related over, no matter how terrible it is. But in this instance, I can't do it.
You kind of get Jim Ross trying kind of put it over as well, saying, "Oh, this is actually the third incarnation, the Midnight Express," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's not the same, no, is it, mate? Because this is like a copy." And this was even this match. It was another match with the Midnight Express versus the New Age Outlaws, and Bart Gunn and Billy Gunn got tagged in, and they looked at each other, and they kind of gave us a kind of knowing nod, and they kind of smiled, and the commentators just totally fumbled and didn't know what to do. They're like, "Do we reference it? Do we leave it?" And Jim Ross kind of goes, "Oh yeah, they're brothers," and it's like, yeah, maybe you should have mentioned that earlier.
Maybe
For
it's
people that kind of remembered the smoking guns, it's like, wasn't that long ago, lads? There's a key point. It's almost like, should I mention? It was, are the fans supposed to remember? Because what Vince is like. If he says something never happened, it's total 1984. It was forgotten. I don't know if they were supposed to reference the fact that Bart Gunn and Billy Gunn was kayfabe brothers here. But this match was shite.
It was shite, and
It
I feel like
sucked.
Cornette nearly fighting Ted White, though.
yeah, the
No,
red finds
come
his
on.
balls spot.
I hated that.
what?
The fighting Irishman. I was like,
It was promised, but Cornette just goes completely over the top with it.
I'm normally I'm normally a proponent of Cornette. I normally don't mind, but I can totally see why someone like Russo would have just hated his guts at this point, because even I'm sitting there like, what are you doing, man?
I was about to say, this is really starting to like twist my relationship with Jim Cornette, because again, I didn't mind him, and I sort of do enjoy him, but in this it's just a case of just please fuck off, mate. Just give me like a Los Barricos double feature if I don't have to see Jim Cornette.
An Iron Man match, give it an hour.
Yeah, just give me 60 minutes of those two, as long as Jim Cornette isn't fucking there.
You do realise, he's going to have a fever dream later on of Tim White fighting Jim Cornette in a 60-minute Iron Man match.
In my
with
mind,
Vince Russo refereeing. I bet Vince Russo's in the shark cage.
And it's the Brett versus Austin finish, and it's Jim Cornette passing out in the sharpshooter.
One under his face.
I think another thing that kills it is knowing just how fast the business moves. Like 4 years can define an entire era. 98 to 2002 is remembered as the Attitude Era. 2002 to 2006 is remembered as like the Ruthless Aggression Era. The business moves really, really fast. And you've got the Rock and Roll Express coming out, and they've got the big jackets and the big hair and the big music and that. And knowing just how fast. This isn't new generation. This is like golden era generation. This feels like centuries out for 1998.
I wouldn't sully the past by even saying that, though. The centuries gone past wrestling was much better than this. I didn't even give it a rating, to be honest with you.
It just doesn't work. And the Talking Roll Express, the Rock and Roll Express.
Fucking carnies.
I've passed it by this point. I know. I don't want to go into the whole comparing their age to current guys in the roster just now, but they're a bit younger. They're gone by this point. They're just they don't have it. And the fact that these guys are wrestling recently terrifies me.
Weren't these guys heels at No Way Out of Texas? Like they were siding with Jeff Jarrett and his whole. Yeah. But their baby faces here.
Why not? 2 months is a long time in Vince world, and I'll say one thing though. I'll give all the credit to Bob Holly. That guy took any gimmick he was given and tried to make it work.
Yeah. workhorse.
I was really shocked at just how little the crowd was into this. I mean, this is Southern Wrestling in Carolina, no less, and the crowd is just not feeling this at all.
You're talking to the man who, like I said, would normally defend this to the death on a hill with the NWA flag draped over me. But like, you know, it's not. It's just not it. It's not. It's fake. It's not real.
Yeah.
Wrestling's fake.
Wait, what?
No!
Ah, come on.
Come on, we need to get on to the evening gown match.
Oh, fucking hell. Right,
I mean,
okay.
it's just this is what Jerry Lawler's been waiting for, and as a result, I fucking hate it.
I didn't watch it. I'm not going to lie to you. I flat out did not watch it, and I refused to. Even when I had this on a VHS as a child, I didn't even know what a semi was, and I knew it wasn't working for me.
Because I watch it on my PS4, and the WWE Network player on that is fucking garbage. It is like trying to DJ with like oven gloves on. So if I watch something, I have to put it on. I have to put my controller away from me, so nothing gets touched, nothing gets moved. I have to watch everything. I watched this match, and I mean this. I say this with chest. This is the worst thing I've ever seen. If you're listening on Spotify, for your benefit, I have just dabbed. Hello to our Spotify listeners. Please dab along with me. It was just, looking back on it when you were like, you know, in your formative years, a bra and panties match was like, wow. And looking back on it, it's
really not aged well, has it?
It's actually a bit perverted, really. I was going to say it's just overly bawdy, but it's just a bit perverted.
Can we talk about Sable getting a standing ovation like she's fucking Harley Race at the front of the shoulder?
Again, it is just fodder for a load of horny CEX employees.
Well, the minute they started ripping at one another's sleeves, I knew this wasn't going to be Gotch and Hackenschmidt.
I just love the idea of that used Silver Vision Unforgiven DVD in CEX. The way just the image you painted there.
Luna is a legitimate worker. What the hell is she doing in a match like this? It's just a crying shame.
Again, it's just indicative of the attitude. And yeah, the ruthless aggression era is that despite the fact you would have a legitimate, proper female workers, you would just pigeonhole them into, you have breasts, you will make the dribblingly horny crowd out there start to whoop and holler. And Jerry Lawler will likely make you feel uncomfortable.
I'm forgetting now, but who was it that defected to WCW with the Women's Championship again? Who was that?
Alundra Blaze.
So Alundra Blaze, right? The New Gen era wasn't lacking in unbelievable barnstormer matches from women, kind of thing. This is just sheer spite from McMahon.
Yeah.
He knows they can work. He's not interested in the slightest. And even to this day, I'm certain he's not. When you see, sincerely, when I saw that women got the WrestleMania main event, I just thought, well, yeah, okay, but is that really an achievement in an 8-hour show and no one's going to be awake for the finale? Really? I feel like that was Vince just going, you can have it now, I'm not interested. Like,
we have to address the elephant in the room with this match though, which is like Sable gets her dress bottom ripped off and gets cheered, and then she gets the top ripped off and gets cheered even further. So who's the heel here? Is it Luna? Is it
it's
either?
Yeah. The crowd.
Yeah, it is the crowd.
Yeah, the crowd. I'm done with this, to be honest. Unless there's something you want to specifically cover about it, I didn't watch it.
I want to cover this. It's fucking dreadful.
Yeah, okay, cool.
I want to spend the rest of my life just getting fucking angry about this. Like, it's one of those, I'm tempted just like get into like combat sports, and if I need to hype myself up for a fight, I'm going to watch this match, and I'll go out and I'll just rip that guy's fucking head off. It's just one of it's ridiculous. It's slightly perverted. It is incredibly spiteful from Vince McMahon. And again, when you think about someone like China, rolling back to locking her in the shark cage, her being the leader of DX Angle, you could have done so much more with her. She had a very good career, but you could have just done so much more with her because she was legit. She was the real deal, man.
I think it's interesting you make a note about ripping the head off your opponent. I think a lot of guys, well, Vince was maybe ripping the head off things, but you know what? Let's move on. Let's move on to the next segment.
Yeah. In fact, yeah, it was just Vince McMahon's wank fantasy. This is all it was.
Next up, we have the Mr. McMahon segment where he comes out. Now, obviously, it's been 6 months since Montreal, and he's still trying to do the kind of put upon babyface angle here. I don't know. I'm trying to remember how much longer it took after this for the heel turn to really go into full effect. But I tell you what,
it wasn't long, was it? Because this was early '98, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So it can't have been long.
It couldn't have taken Vince very long to lose that Carolina accent. Compared to like, I don't know, my only other exposure to the Carolina accent is like Channing Tatum and Adam Driver and Logan Lucky. And Vince has a very, very New York voice, so I can't imagine it took him very long to ditch the southern twang.
I think it's the only time he's admitted that he's from the South, which is he must have known the crowd were really dying that night. He went, God, I'm gonna have to pull something right out of my pocket here.
Mm-hmm. Right, after this we have the New Age Outlaws versus LOD 2000. Now it's very nice to see LOD getting this huge kind of presentation with pyro and strobe lighting and silver and black colour scheme and sunny and all that. But was it too late for LOD 2000?
Yep.
Yeah, and it's a shame because I thought it actually looked quite good in the match.
Tops look.
And when they come out, and it's like I simultaneously hate but have a soft spot for LOD 2000. The presentation, there's something about it that works. The suit with Sunny, it looks good, but at the same time, it doesn't look better than it did than they had before. It bizarrely looks more cartoonish than the previous look, which I find strange. But also, they have, because they're paired with Sunny, they do look a bit edgier.
I was going to say this is slightly irrelevant, but is it just me or does Hawk look like a completely different man?
He might be. I don't know. It's wrong. He's gone. It's wrong to assume things, but there were a few botches in this that made me think: is that man sober?
Yeah, I recently watched The Dark Side of the Ring on the Road Warriors, and I'm pretty sure this is where it starts to tie up.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably right.
It's a shame because Animal does really well here.
Yeah.
But Hawk just totally... There's a straight up point where I can't remember what the move was, but I'm pretty sure he drops Billy Gunn.
Yeah.
It was a power slam. Yeah. It was a power slam or a body... you call him hold on, I've got it written down here. A body slam. He picked up Billy Gunn and he dropped him. It's the first move you're taught in fucking wrestling school, and he can't even do that at this point. It's sad, Yeah. I think I talked about this in the first episode I was in with you guys. I don't understand what they were trying to do with LOD at this point. I thought maybe when I first saw them here, they were brought back to enhance, work with, and put over new talent. But I don't feel like they're putting new talent over as much as they're just getting mugged off on a week-to-week basis. Now, if you add the real-life issues backstage into that in hindsight, it's just sad.
Yeah.
I was going to say, inside of... Sorry, Thomas.
No, I was just going to say, to keep with Cammy, saying the fact that Hawk's clearly not, do I assume, but
he's not there.
He's probably not on the level during this match, and they give a referee, the Doomsday Device.
Yeah.
I mean, outside of maybe Phineas and Henry, I don't want to say their second names, but outside of Phineas and Henry, I can't think of any non-NWA tag teams that they could have really done a program with.
I love the fact that the tag team that should not be named were not on this pay-per-view, and then they mentioned them during this match. I'm like, for fuck's sake. Just had to do it. They had to get them in somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, what I forgot was JR mentions that LOD returned at Mania 14 to do that big battle royale when obviously LOD won it. I didn't know that Mania 14 was so that they could face, New Age Outlaws here. I just assumed, why wouldn't the big payoff just be like some kind of triple tag team match at Mania 14 with Chainsaw Charlie and Cactus Jack and the New Age Outlaws?
I think it would be wrong for us not to put over the fact that, well, I don't know about we, but certainly I feel that the New Age Outlaws at this point, with not much of a plan for DX, I think they're the best part of DX. I think Road Dogg can talk better than Hunter at this point, and I think Billy Gunn, even at this point, is a great worker. And I think they displayed both those aspects in this match, even if they weren't given much of a platform to do so.
Yeah.
I was going to say the finish as well doesn't really work for me whatsoever. I mean, it looks like Road Warrior, but they get that screwy finish with NWA going over. Very disappointed to see LOD 2000 didn't get a run with the straps.
It's a terrible finish because we all see that Hawk's shoulders clearly up. And it's not till we see the replay. And it's if you're watching it going, how the fuck can the referee get this wrong? And then they try and kind of cover it up and show the replay and you're like, yeah, that makes no sense because that's not what we watched.
Just
So
a
it's
bit
all
your
bit-
eyes, like an inch to the right, and you'll see that both men are 1.5.
Again, another stupid finish. Some overbooking. That's terrible booking.
I'm more excited to talk about Sawyer Brown than this.
Yeah, I was going to say additionally, let's get the bad taste out of our mouths and talk about a personal highlight, which is Jeff Jarrett performing with Sawyer Brown. Now, it's 4 months since Jeff Jarrett returned. Obviously, his first pay-per-view reappearance was at In Your House Degeneration X against The Undertaker. 4 months, they've already given up all hope on the NWA gimmick, and he is already back in full neon cowboy JJ mode. It's Lumberjeffs all over again, isn't it? I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
Here's my take, though. It's not awful.
No.
A lot of fun with this.
No, it was one of those. Obviously, it wasn't like a real watershed moment for the WWF. But yeah, it was silly. I liked it.
Apparently, during the sound check for this, JBL double leg Jerry Briscoe, which, if you know anything about Jerry Briscoe, is something that you don't ever do. And apparently he was very, very hot about it. And at some point backstage during the pay-per-view, he caught up with JBL. And whoever witnessed it just knows that there was a, like you said, just like Jericho, there was a schmoz. I'm not paying attention to that. I don't want to see that. And then apparently, old man Jerry, you turn around and old man Jerry Briscoe is on top of JBL in a bulldog choke, and all you can hear from him saying is "Tap out like you mean it, pussy." And he choked him out. Apparently, he choked him out. Not that this segment needs elevated more, because of course we've got Double J doing another fantastic lip sync to a dated country song, but I just thought I'd add that in there because I know you enjoy it.
I guess now Stop the Presses, a country music getting over with North Carolinians getting over. I know Stop the Presses, but it works.
Hell, nothing else did.
Uh-huh.
I liked the last time Jeff Jarrett did this. I enjoyed it this time as well, but this time didn't seem much of a gimmick. The last time was obviously him lip syncing. It was a Road Dogg was the real singer, and that whole kind of came out, and there was a reason for it. Here, I don't think it really went anywhere. It was it was strange in a way. I think it was just because to have Sawyer Brown on the show more than anything. And Jeff, do you fancy lip syncing again? What's the payoff? You fucking pays the payoff. Get out there and do it.
Yeehaw!
The payoff is Steve Blackman nearly getting knocked out of those sweet Nikes that he was repping.
Here's the thing: Steve Blackman comes out. Jim Ross says something. I'm sure Jim Ross. I might take a note of this. He says, "We haven't seen Steve Blackman since Jeff Jarrett attacked him." And I'm like, I don't fucking see him in the first match. I need to go back and check. I'm sure he said something like that.
Still been too busy thinking about what that evening gown match was going to look like.
Yeah, the Boju was kicking in.
On to our sub main event here, which is the inaugural Inferno match between Undertaker and Kane. watching the video promo, I had one thought, which is, why is Unforgiven the subtitle of In Your House? Like, couldn't they have called it In Your House, Fire and Tombstone, or In Your House Sibling Rivalry, or something like that? It's like something you could have had a lot more than In Your House Unforgiven.
Again, hindsight is 2020. The fact that Unforgiven then became a solid pay-per-view as well, I'll let it slide.
Yeah.
But again, that's just the fact that Unforgiven then became a staple of the WWE pay-per-view offering.
I think at this point, that they're looking to kind of move away from the In Your House thing and have their own monthly, having new pay-per-views with established names, because you got No Way Out before it as well.
Yeah.
And I can see it. It's not like Mind Games, it's not a DX thing, it's just like, no, this is what's going to be called from the one in.
Was it too soon for the return match from Mania 14, or do you think a month was perfectly fine?
No, it's fine.
I think we've waited long enough for Kane. Let the man work.
The Inferno match, this has to be peak Russo booking here. I'm trying to imagine the mental image of explaining to Mark and Glenn how this match is going to go down, and I'm in absolute hysterics.
Well, there had been Inferno matches before in the likes of Japan and Puerto Rico and such, but albeit not as safe as this. We're talking rags dipped in gasoline wrapped around the ropes type thing. So long as he wasn't pitching that, then I'm pretty sure they'd have been pretty responsive.
Yeah, this feels like the safest way to try and set your other man on fire, to be honest.
If you were gonna do it.
Yeah, it's one of those. Let's be completely honest. Nothing about an Inferno match or a Hell in a Cell match is what I'd call safe. But this feels like the safest way to try and fucking murder each other.
And we'll get on to this because we have a plan about gimmick matches in store to discuss. But my genuine opinion about gimmick matches is that they're supposed to elevate both the storyline and the performance on the night. And that's how I'm going to attack looking at this. As far as the storyline goes, I think this was perfect, really. It was built properly. The promo package was great. It worked so well with each character. Hell, it sold the pay-per-view. Let's be honest, it probably did. I can't see Stone Cold and Dude Love at the time, selling it kind of thing. There's not much you can do when the entire ring is surrounded by friggin' flames kind of thing. So I'm kind of glad that we didn't see some crazy fast exchanges or anything like that, but there's some cool moments. Old school on the ropes, Undertaker walking the ropes was a highlight for me. The suicide dive to the outside.
I just want to ask this quick question: should this have been ground zero for like the movie match?
Yes, I completely agree. And actually, moving into that, I didn't watch the last episode of The Last Ride until recently because I knew the ending, I knew what was happening, so I was like, I'll watch it whenever. And that episode was my first experience of the Boneyard match, and I fucking loved the Boneyard match. I loved the staging of it, and I love the fact that they had a couple of bites of the cherry as well, but I love the frame, and I love the storytelling angle of it as well. And I do think an Inferno match would work better outside the confines of a wrestling ring as well. It does feel a bit limited for me. I like the idea is to set your competitor on fire. I really like the high stakes version of that, but it feels like a squared circle is a little bit too small to contain that energy.
Yeah. But sorry.
No, you go.
For me, watching this, referenced it before to death as a kid. This was like the biggest thing in the universe, sort of thing. Like, and I need to try and look at it through those goggles and take those off. So if I was to look at this through those goggles, this was a 5 out of 5 match. But if I was to take those goggles off, I would relegate it to 4 out of 5. And that being, if I'm sticking by my rule, which I think is tried and tested, from a storyline point of view, this is 10 out of 10. But it clearly has its limitations. There's not much that can be done. And I feel like what they did do was done. which is exactly why they never should have revisited this with MVP years later. They literally done everything they could have done with this match, and that's great. One and done, that's fine.
I'm trying to imagine what a movie match would have looked like in 1998, though. Like, In Your House, Friday the 13th, Part 9, Kane Goes to Hell. Like, that would have been a much more interesting selling point.
I like this match, and it's for the visual, and it's just saying kind of the story involved. You take away that fire, there's not a lot happening. And,
No.
and that's not a criticism of the guys, there's not a lot they can do. I mean, Kane must have been sweltering in that mask. I mean, it must have been incredible. I don't know how he's able to breathe. But the image, like every time like a move happened and the flames just burst up, and Taker jumping over the ropes and stuff like that. It was an incredibly visual experience, and it really worked for me for that. But you're right, it should have been one and done.
Well, sorry.
I think I really grudged you guys making me rewatch this for two reasons. One, it was never going to live up to what my childhood memory was of it, ever, kind of thing. But secondly, because it's now in HD, the wrap around his arm at the end is really obvious. Whereas when I watched it before, it was on VHS. I can remember rewinding and playing it, and I'm like, fuck, his arm's on fire. There's nothing there, whereas now in HD, it's like painfully obvious at the end there.
But what's really good about that as well, and I remember watching this when I was younger and finding it quite funny, was when he falls in the flames, he's wrapped around his gimmicked arm, falls in the flame, and his bare arm goes too close to the flame, and he goes, ah!
Now, I would be remiss in my duties if I didn't point out JR's call of, that's Vader! That's Vader! And we get, the two big red machines locking up. I love Vader's outfit. It's like the black vest with a red stripe. I just wish that had been his costume starting off rather than that silly singlet.
Marky bingo cards, lads. It was an hour and 10 minutes.
What do you guys make of the Vader running? And I don't want to say it because I'm not the only one, right? Because there is a Vader chant immediately after we get the most incredible suicide dive I've ever seen.
Now, I'm gonna really out myself as a pariah here. Outside of the gimmick, didn't really go for this match, but I did really enjoy the Vader running.
I just think that there's no way that Vader. It could have been a good return for him. I felt like he was completely overshadowed by the event and who was in the ring, because they had spent the last so many months building to WrestleMania. We're a month removed from that. Great match. And this is still hot, if you excuse the pun.
Yeah.
I don't think it done Vader any favours, actually, to be honest with you. I feel like there's probably a more effective... He could have just came out and squashed somebody, but he didn't. So... Aye.
Yeah, it was fine. It made sense. You want somebody to come out and kind of attack the big monster heel and stop him from going backstage. Vader. And obviously the kind of injury angle and that. That made sense for Vader to come out. And it kind of gave Taker some more kind of safety as well, having both Kane and Vader to land on rather than just the one of them. But how they sold that to him, as we want you to do a suicide dive over the flames. It's funny, as you were saying, Cam, kind of thinking back when you're younger. I remember the flames being like exploding when I was younger, when Taker jumped off.
I remember that too.
Yeah.
But it never happened.
No. I was disappointed. I remember thinking, watching it now, going, yeah, that's a real dangerous move they're about to do, because they could have set Taker on fire. I went, no, they don't.
Yeah. Oh, well. And I also remember the flames being closer to the ropes, but when you watch it now, it looks like the fucking gas is like a mile away as well from when it's hitting certain angles. But I remember watching it going, God, it's a wonder those ropes aren't melting.
Yeah.
Can we talk about Undertaker literally dropping the base on Paul Bearer after the fight on the Jeff Jarrett stand? I know this is going to sound really, really cruel, fitting with what we've already talked about, but Paul Bearer looks like Mr. Creosote from the One More Wayfair Thin Mint Monty Python sketch. I don't know if any of you have seen that. It's like the guy with sleeves. Yes, so you know what I mean.
Yeah.
We're going to go 4 out of 5. I absolutely love this.
Yeah, I'll go 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5, yeah, that's fair. Ollie, you got
Oh no, you didn't enjoy it, did you, Ollie?
I didn't go for it in the way I was hoping, so it's still a 3 for me. But it's just I was expecting to be like just smashing the table and just like screaming at it, and it was just like it for a match so hot, it just felt a bit cold in places for me.
See, I mean, someone literally got set on fire. What the hell is it going to take to get the 5 out of this
Yeah,
man?
but you
know
know
what I
he's
mean?
gonna get he's gonna get set on fire.
Because it was the stipulation in the match, albeit, but he still got set on fire.
If in the next match, which you're going to discuss, one of them was set on fire, then I'd give it a 5 out of 5, man, because I'm not expecting him to get set on fire.
That's like someone receiving a Purple Heart and then you no selling it as going, well, you knew you were going to get shot. You were going to war. Doesn't make any sense.
I think Kane
I
only
was about
actually.
to say, you say that like that's not my honestly held belief. Look, man, would you want a medal?
I think Kane only ever won one Inferno match.
Yeah, that's what I find weird as well.
Yeah.
And that's the one he comes out like later. Kane with the mask and he's got the these fucking trunks. He's getting to the stage, you know. He had it was topless and that. It's funny how he has against Triple H. And Triple H.
Who's going to get set on fire? The man in the full body costume or the man in the body smuggler?
Triple H comes out dressed like He-Man, and Kane comes out like a fucking Michelin man, and you're like, hey lads, I think I know how this match is going to end.
Well, there's the Kane gimmick, isn't there? There's if his pyro goes off at the start of the match, he's going to lose, and if it goes off at the end, then well, obviously he's won. He needs to get his moment in. Like
Hogan must pose, Kane must get his pyro.
Exactly. As if Hogan poses at the start, he's going to lose because he needs to get his 5 minutes.
It would have been quite interesting if Mark had played the that's not going to work for me, brother. I ain't getting set on fire. Fuck that.
It's Mark though. Come on, fuck. He was probably just like, yeah, no problem, Vinny. I've got you.
Can you imagine Kane at this point? No, it's like he's had bad gimmick after bad gimmick after bad gimmick, and they're like, this is really kind of he's struck gold here. And they're like, how you find you to take her? Loving it. Fucking honestly, you've been so good to me. How'd you fancy getting set on fire? What? How'd you fancy getting set on fire? Good one. No, I'm serious. And when I say how do you feel about it, it's going to happen. I'm just being polite.
You either take the fire or we're going back to Isaac Yankum.
Yeah. Fake Diesel set on fire. I'd rather get set on fire than watch Fake Diesel again.
Did you see the bit where Paul Bearer walks up to Jerry Briscoe and Jerry Briscoe's sitting next to Geddy Lee, who's working the pyro controls?
Yeah.
I like that. Who is this random man that's not normally there? I thought this was a match between two supernatural beings. Why is Geddy Lee here?
Right, moving on to our main event now, Steve Austin versus Dude Love. Watching the flashback and the video package, it's amazing how quickly they just decided to forget about Shawn. Like, there's the cut back to Mania 14, and you don't see Shawn, you just see Austin getting the 1, 2, 3, and then him holding the winged belt up there. Kind of amazing how quickly they wanted to seemingly get rid of him after catering to his every whim in 1987.
To stay on brand, it's his own fault for breaking his back.
Yeah. I think I've got a theory on this though, that because obviously this recently happened with Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns decided not to attend WrestleMania due to the coronavirus, and people were like, "Oh my God, they snubbed him already." I sincerely believe that if Vince is of the opinion, and I would bury Vince any day, but I think it's more just a production type thing, where if they're trying to seriously put someone else over, they'll not even show the other person in frame because they want your sole concentration to be on the next big thing, which is this pair. It happens so much that when I don't believe it's a personal thing. Albeit I believe that Vince is that spiteful, but it happens so much in promo packages that I think that it's more just a production choice than it is anything like that. Although he would have been within his right to, because obviously I've been outspoken as far as I think Michaels' attitude goes at that point.
I was going to say, Mick Foley actually feels weirdly like an afterthought in the video package. I mean, was Dude Love the right kind of first opponent of the Austin era? I mean, is there any other guys that you picked?
I just found it strange watching the video package, and they really tried to force this Dude Love heel turn. And again, it was just kind of convoluted how they did it, because it looked like, I remember watching this for the time as well, and I remember watching the actual Raw, and they just looked at Dude Love has snapped and attacked Austin. But they're like, oh no, it was in the whole time. He attacked Austin because Vince was promising a title shot. I'm like, yeah, it didn't come across at all. You usually have to explain things.
At the same time, Mankind being heel, Cactus Jack being healed. How the fuck are you gonna make a hippie called Dude Love who wears tie-dye a fucking heel? Who's gonna go for that?
Well, Mick Foley's whole career is born as the whole structure that it's built on top of is that he's very sympathetic when taking a bump, and that's not very much a heel move, is it? Like you feel so. I never understand Mick in a heel program.
I can think of another guy that should have been Austin's first big opponent to do a program with, but I won't.
Okay then, Lewis. Let's.
You know what? I'll respectfully bow out. Since
we're really curious and probably going to be surprised.
Please indulge me, Lewis.
I'll refrain my opinion. I've been bullied into silence. That's fine.
Let's keep it that way.
Yes.
He was going to say Bret Hart.
Yeah. No,
it rhymes with Big Jan Jada.
Silly question here, but since this is the first pay-per-view to use the Attitude Era title, would you guys prefer Winged Eagle or Attitude Era belt?
Winged Eagle for me.
Winged Eagle, yeah. Actually, it wasn't until I spent so much time rewatching the New Gen stuff and then doing this that made me realise that, to be honest with you, just how much I'm not even a fan. Like, I actually prefer the Ruthless Aggression era WWE title to the Universal title. Is that referred to? Sorry. No, that's now, isn't it? That's now.
Yeah, that's now.
Sorry. Either way, the Ruthless Aggression title I actually prefer to this one. I just think this is a big gold plate with a blue dot on it.
Is the Ruthless Aggression one the Cena spinner, or does that come after?
No, I'm talking about the Eddie Guerrero one.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. It's funny how that's synonymous with him, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's to be honest, when you mentioned that, I struggle to think of anyone else, because when I think world title in that era as well, I think the big gold belt. I think if you mentioned the big gold belt, I'd be able to list off Triple H, Benoit, Batista.
Funnily enough, I was a bigger fan of the Kurt Lesnar, Guerrero, even GBL, But anyway, the main event with Austin and Dude Love. Wow, wowzers! I was.
Can we talk about Mick taking the worst senton drop bomb I have ever seen? That was the sorest looking spot I have ever witnessed. Him landing back first on concrete, just.
I'm just surprised that his legs just didn't just fire off at that point.
Well, it's not just that. Later on in the match, they do the steel steps spot as well, with him going calf first into the entrance walkway.
I'm gonna be that guy and say that when I was young, I loved Mick Foley and all of his characters, and I think it was morbid curiosity that kind of driven me there. Now looking back on it, I don't have a lot of time for the guy, to be honest with you. Because, and it's out of two sort of things. I don't want to see him get hurt, and if I'm watching one of his matches, he's gonna get hurt, because that's the only thing in his playbook. He knew a few moves really well. He was skilled to an extent, but he didn't at any point seek to get fitter or better his thesaurus of wrestling moves. Instead, he thought, I'm just going to fall off of that tonight. I'm going to go through that tonight. And I didn't really want to see that. I'm not a big fan of gimmick matches, and it's half the man's career.
I'd agree with that. I still do look back fondly on a good handful of Mick Foley matches.
Yeah.
Especially his program with Triple H as well. Was it 21 or 22 match with Edge?
22.
22, that street fight with him. But again, I look back fondly on them. I enjoy them, but I completely agree with you that his whole bit was, I'm going to fall off this tonight.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not saying that I dislike the guy. I really like Mick Foley, and again, I look back fondly on those, but I have no desire to revisit them, other than maybe the odd YouTube compilation once a year, if that.
Can we talk about how nonsensical the dynamic is if Vince is looking for this shirt and tie corporate champion and Dude Love is the typical opponent? Like, how,
Again,
110%.
I don't know if I'm going to see my arse here and just make myself pariah. I hated this main event.
Yeah.
No.
You know who could have been fantastic if the timing was correct would have been Kurt Angle. Because that's exactly who you would have wanted as the face of your company. The gold medalist, the eat your vitamins, say your prayers in front on the front of a Wheaties box, suit and tie. That could have been a good gimmick. I mean, Kurt Angle was fantastic in everything he done.
Well, that's because I really like Kurt Angle, the person, the wrestler.
Everything.
But Kurt Angle, the character for me, was just incredible. Like, you're talking about an Olympic gold medalist, and for me, one of the best wrestlers that has ever wrestled in the WWE. And he happily goes and plays the most pathetic man in the universe.
Yeah.
But again, you really believe it. You really believe he's an absolute weed. And again, I much like with Lewis and Gig Gangada, I think more than anyone else, when I think about it, I'll absolutely mark out for Kurt Angle.
Yeah.
I think I have more favourite wrestlers, but there is no one I will talk higher of than Kurt Angle.
I'm in the same camp, but yeah, I can't think of many other people that would have been around in this era who would have fit the corporate kind
I
of.
was going to say Shamrock with the Johnny Unitas haircut, but he was already doing a program with The Rock at this point, so it wouldn't have made sense.
Nah, I think he only knew how to play the ruthless cage fighter. I don't think he had enough talent to come across as Shane Douglas. Where was he at this point?
ECW, I'm sure.
No, is he no WCW? Well, he could have. I don't know.
I know, but you're right though. I mean, everybody's right. What they're saying, just Dude Love doesn't seem to work here. Obviously, him and Austin have got some history, and that's talked about. But I actually didn't mind the match. I thought it was okay.
Yeah.
But it didn't feel like a main event going into the new era. But going back to that bump with Mick Foley in the concrete, that was horrible. Absolutely horrible to watch.
Can we talk about the finish as well with Dude Love winning via DQ? Like, this is Austin's the new guy that you're putting the company on his back and you're pushing him to the moon. This is the first pay-per-view since he's won the title at Mania, and he loses via disqualification. What does that do for Austin?
I think, like I said before, though, they've not got a full grasp on the characters yet, and I think for Austin, when you see some of the things he's doing, they are really heelish at this point. Whereas when they perfected the character, they knew how to play that heel as a face. Whereas at the moment, yeah, I feel like there's just a little bit of that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because we're still, 3 years removed from the Kumbaya spot with Mr. McMahon.
Which, of course, was the pinnacle. Yes, you're right, Lewis.
Right, so I think we've just about covered all aspects of the match. Right, what do we make of In Your House Unforgiven as a total then?
I'd give it 4 stars. I thought it was a lot. Actually, when I watched it, I'd give it 4 stars. I'd probably give it 3.5 after speaking about it.
I'm going to stick with 3.5. There were some good points for me, but at the same time, I think it actually loses a lot of points for that main event.
I don't want to give it 3 stars, but I'm going to, and it's off the back of the vast improvements they've made and tried to make with the actual quality of the product at this point. That's what's driven it, because I think match quality wise, the only thing that I would ever go back and watch this for is the Inferno match, and I wouldn't even watch the pay-per-view. I would just network it and skip to that match. kind of thing. But I just want to give credit where credit's due and say that the production was completely night and day than before WrestleMania.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same way as Oliver and Thomas. I'll give it 3.5. I think that match quality wise, I think the Attitude Era is actually one of the worst periods in terms of in-ring product, at least until maybe about 2000, when we get the younger guys in and they start. But I think the commitment to the whole late 90s trash TV Jerry Springer aesthetic is so strong that somehow kind of balances out the bad stuff. And
yeah, it's not the hottest take in the world to say that if WWE didn't go for that on your nose, in your face Attitude Era, the company would have died. Because there is nothing in these late 90s pay-per-views where I turn around and say, wow, that really made the company.
Yeah.
No, it was everything outside of the bell ringing that carried that company to the end of the Monday Night Wars. If not, WCW would have fucking killed them.
There's a famous,
maybe even before the millennium.
There's a famous quote, I should say, regarding Bruce Pritchard in The Sandman, and how awesome his entrance was, and how brilliant it was, and he said every bit of the Sandman character was great until the bell rang. That didn't matter. But that doesn't matter though, because the Sandman wasn't about the in-ring action. That entrance is one of the greatest entrances ever in wrestling. It's totally iconic, and you watch it for One Night Stand. If you can find the original audio, it's even better. And you're right, Ollie, regarding this. It's I'm not saying the matches were terrible, but the Attitude Era wasn't about the in-ring matches. And unfortunately, that's something Russo said, and I do agree with him. It's a controversial statement, and a lot of people don't agree with him, a lot of his peers, but the Attitude Era was about the storylines.
Yeah, completely. And yeah, again, maybe with this, I'm not suggesting this, not in the slightest, because I have a finite amount of time on this earth. I'm not going to spend it watching Raws from the 90s.
No.
But I think maybe if you'd watch the Raws leading up to and after this, there might be a bit more value in the matches as well. Like it might mean more. I don't know, but yeah, like isolating the Attitude Era like this, yeah, it was a really, really poor time for match quality, and hopefully when we get onto the mid 2000s, we'll be able to see that step change.
Mm-hmm. Right, moving on to our ending/closing segment, our top 3 favourite gimmick matches. I know I've got my 3. Right, who wants to go first?
I'll go.
Okay, what's your number 3?
So my number 3, like I said, I believe gimmick matches should elevate both storyline and performance. I'm going to go with the Hell in a Cell because it's probably the most obvious one. But personally for me, I think it reinvented a over-explained concept, which was the cage match at the time. And also, as far as a competing product, NWA, WCW, they had already experimented with War Games and the triple tier cage match, so it was a good step for the company. My favourite match was the first one, to be honest. I still think that's the peak with Shawn Michaels and Undertaker at Bad Blood in Your House. Number 2 is War Games. I mean, it's a Royal Rumble match mixed with a cage match, because, what's better than that? My favourite is the Stinger Squadron versus the Dangerous Alliance at Wrestle War 92. But I want to give a special mention to the first NXT War Games that came back, which was Undisputed Era versus Authors of Pains and Roderick Strong, and say that if you're into wrestling, gimmick matches and anything, that is 100% something that has to be watched. And number 1 is just the classic steel cage match. For me, nothing rivals the cage. It's the only gimmick match that elevates both storyline and performance. Everything else is a waste of time. Hard to watch and breaks kayfabe. It's 2 guys locked in a ring to settle the bad blood via whatever means necessary. Don't overcomplicate things. My favourites, probably, there's too many to mention.
Al Snow versus Big Boss Man.
That's it. You hit me on the. You got it. Kurt Angle versus Chris Benoit, Raw in 2000 at some point, with the headbutt off the cage and the moonsault and just the any time those two were together, my favourite being WrestleMania 17, is just outstanding. Magnum TA versus Tully Blanchard, Starrcade 85, which is my favourite version of a cage match. It was an I Quit match inside a cage. I don't believe in all this shit where the door opens and people scramble to get out. I think SummerSlam 94, the Hearts were in a cage, and it was the most heartbreaking thing of all time. Like, they're just scrambling to get to the door, despite the fact they're two unbelievable technicians with lots of bad blood and history. They run to the door like complete pussies, and it's a terrible match. Yeah, it is. It is. As far as the steel cage match go, I think it's easily one of the worst. And if you put it in context to saying you've got two of the best in-ring performers of all time in there, what they could have done, it's honestly is heartbreaking. Ric Flair and Harley Race, but just to say, they've changed. Matt Riddle and Timothy Thatcher last month done what's called a fight pit match with Kurt Angle as a special guest referee, where it's just a steel cage with no ropes, and they done like almost like a kayfabe shoot match. It's 100% worth a watch. Just again trying to put over some modern product for the lads.
Wait, how many have you listed? That feels a lot more than 3.
Just because, no, I just said 3 different types of matches and then wanted to bang on about all my favourite matches because there's too many to count. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Right, I'll take the bullet and go next then. Right, and number 3, I've got the Undertaker versus Mr. Kennedy match from Armageddon 2006. Now, I just want to highlight this right now. This isn't because it's a good match. This holds a personal spot for me because Armageddon 2006 was the first DVD I ever actually got for my birthday. And it was
pure child.
It was without a doubt the best match of that pay-per-view, although granted it was Kane versus MVP in an Inferno match to begin with. And the last match was a tag team match with Cena and Batista versus Booker T and Finlay. So, well, not a great deal of variety, but obviously the last match was pretty perfect. They actually incorporate the set at one point with Undertaker getting thrown off the big A symbol, which is it's always sort of innovative when they use the set to their advantage. I mean, obviously Undertaker goes over because Undertaker had to go over, but I just think Mr. Kennedy going into this point had sort of been a major player, regardless of world titles, lacks of all this. I just think that it was a very, very decent little stripped out match. Again, it feels like forever, and it's only about 17 minutes, but it had everything I was looking for. And number 2, I've got the 6-man Hell in a Cell from Armageddon 2000 with Undertaker, Rock, Austin, Triple H, Rikishi, and did I say Kurt Angle? No, I didn't say Kurt Angle. Right, so the 6-man Hell in a Cell. This was the culmination of the big storyline of 2000, which was who ran over Austin. And the minute the match begins, you have Rikishi tying up with Rock, and you have Triple H tying up with Stone Cold, and you've got Angle and Undertaker in the background doing a lot of the heavy lifting. It says a lot about the quality of your match when you've got Angle and Undertaker doing a lot of the background heavy lifting. And obviously there's that really, really impressive spot with Rikishi.
But if you can't book a match because it's overpopulated, so you need to go to the point of tying people up. But you tied them up though.
Fluid movement between guys.
Right, okay, cool.
But at least, in my opinion, I thought it had everything. Again, you could not do Rock and Austin, obviously that's the Mania tier, but just the fact that you've got all these guys. I mean, I know we often think about like the Attitude Era as the All Stars, but this was quite literally an All Stars match. There's no other population in wrestling history that's had this many faces of the company that you can throw in the one spot. Obviously, did Rikishi belong in this match? It's debatable. Maybe it should have been Kane.
A 5-man Hell in a Cell feels a bit off though.
Yeah. Was there not like a Godwin truck in it or something like that?
Yes, there was, but where Austin, Patterson and Briscoe came in the back of a giant hay truck or something like that. It was filled with some kind of feed that Rikishi could get slammed into without hurting.
As long as Briscoe was there, I'd allow it.
And my number 1 spot, I mean, without a doubt, I had to do this. The favourite kind of like match of all time is the Iron Man match from Mania 12 with Shawn and Bret. It had to be. It's a match that, because of its length, these guys have to throw everything but the kitchen sink at it. And you've got the only 2 guys in the company that could go out there and work for an hour and absolutely tear the house down. Granted, I think it being in Anaheim, California, I don't think the crowd was as into it had it maybe taken place in like the Deep South.
Yeah.
This match would have absolutely torn the house down in like Carolina,
Greensboro.
Texas or something like that. But yeah, again, it has to be. It's on nearly every top 10 match of all time list, and for good reason. It is that good. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Go.
Ollie Thomas.
You go first, Thomas.
Cool. I've no picked specific matches. I've just kind of picked my favourite kind of gimmicks, and I've tried not to pick ones that were mentioned. 'Cause I did have War Games down. I meant the Dangerous Alliance and Sting Squadron match. That was one of the first WCW pay-per-views I watched. I loved that. But my favourite gimmick matches.
Where did you have it? Like in your ranking?
War Games probably 3.
3.
I'd had it 3, aye, but I've taken it. I'll put number 3. I've got Money in the Bank matches.
Yeah.
I love them.
Easy.
I love everything about them. I love ladder matches in general. So having that aspect, it's great. The stipulation when they win, you have no idea when this person's going to cash in. It's rarely done badly. It has been done badly, but it's rarely done badly.
I would argue though that it's killed all the mid-tier belts, because instead of giving a mid-tier belt to someone who's going to be the next big thing, they just give the Money in the Bank briefcase to that person, and it lowers the stock of whoever's carrying around the Intercontinental Championship, for instance.
That's a fair point.
But at the same time, you can get stuck at IC title level forever.
Yeah.
Getting the Money in the Bank briefcase feels like you're fast tracked to the world title. Having the IC title doesn't mean you're then next in line for the throne.
It used to though, to a certain extent, and I just kind of I miss the days of there's 2 big belts and that's it. There's no more gimmicks, and people they actually have to write a decent storyline to get someone in the picture as opposed to they happen to win. You've also got the Royal Rumble. I mean, it's fucking hell, man. Like, there's so much. But I mean, as an opener to Mania, especially when they used to do that, I think that was when Money in the Bank was at its best. I loved that. Best opening match of all time.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like how it's evolved. I did like how it was the Mania opener.
My favourite cash-in was Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 31. I just didn't see it coming. I was absolutely steaming, watching it in the cat house. So at 4 in the morning. I'd been to ICW earlier on that night as well, and everybody just having a great time. And when Rollins' music kicked in, the place just erupted. People were cheering. It was incredible. Number 2, this is the very fancy match for the good old-fashioned street fight. That could also come under no DQs, hardcore match, whatever. I love this kind of matches, and I think if done well, they're a really good way to kind of put a pin on a feud. Obviously, Ciampa Gargano didn't really end their feud and still haven't in NXT. I think they're destined to do that forever, but their street fight at NXT TakeOver it's one of the best matches I've seen. And the street fight element really added to it. The jeans and stuff just added that kind of extra danger to it. I'm a big fan of them. I just like gimmicks. I like garbage wrestling. I like people hitting each other with trash cans and stuff.
I thought you were on about the movie match there from NXT TakeOver in your house. I was like, are you fucking serious?
I do love the idea of Thomas sitting there going, fuck man, he's in jeans. This is serious. Oh fuck, Triple H came out in the double denim. This is double serious.
Shit's going to go down.
That's how you know when it's going down, when they do come out in like normal people clothes.
Yes.
That's the indicator.
The Rock comes out in his tank top.
The thing is, when you think of a street fight, my favourite street fight was Shawn Michaels versus Triple H at SummerSlam 2002. But it just always haunts me for Shawn's stonewashed denim and white tank top combo. It just doesn't crest visually for me.
All he's missing is the diamonded dog tags, but I'm pretty sure he did have a diamonded cross, didn't he?
Yeah, it feels like the only match where Sexy Boy should not have been played.
It's still not as egregious as his Browntown tights from the Elimination Chamber match.
See, the thing is, I'll let Thomas carry on, but yeah, that's a feature for me, and again, that completely kills it for me.
Do you know, I was actually tempted about the Boneyard match, but because there's only one of them so far, and it's kind of been a one-off, but I fucking love that match. I think it's one of the greatest gimmick matches I've seen. But number one for me is the Royal Rumble. I absolutely love the Royal Rumble. It's one of my favourite pay-per-views. Again, when done right, the surprises can be excellent. I mean, when Edge came out, don't, but I had money on that, and I won a few quid based on that. But I totally forgot, and when his music kicked in, I actually popped sitting in my living room. I was never really the biggest Edge fan either. I kind of missed that whole era of wrestling. I was kind of looking forward to coming back and watching it and seeing what the hype was about. But seeing him come out, I love big returns to the Rumble. I love it.
It is my favourite part of wrestling, and opposite to you, Edge was of my time, and I was a huge Edge fan. Despite the fact that he was always the bastard, I loved to hate him.
Yeah.
I loved watching Edge, and he's got to get his this week, and then when he wins, it's like, just bastard.
Okay.
But yeah, when I heard Edge came back at the Rumble again, that was when I'd been removed 10, 12 years, and I was like, watched it, I was like, fuck yeah, it's Edge, it's fucking Edge.
I think it's easy to argue that the Rumble is the only thing, the modern product. And whenever I refer to the modern product in a negative way, I'm referring to the A shows. Positive, NXT. But the A shows, the only thing they get right now is the Royal Rumble, I feel. The only thing. Even Mania is questionable at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too long. The best problem with Mania is too long. I still get excited for Mania. I'll still take a day off work to watch Mania and things like that. I mean, I'm still a total mark, but it's just way too long. I kind of like to be over 2 nights. I like to be over 2 nights, to be honest.
I quite enjoyed that. I felt a wee bit like Tea in the Park back in the day, except it was me, just myself, and it was uncool. Like, it wasn't like everyone was like, yes, man. It was just me on my couch going, yeah, cool, excellent. Let's get drunk again. Brilliant.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, all of it, it's too long these days. 'Cause I remember I'd come in from school and you'd be able to watch Raw and still have the rest of your evening. Same with SmackDown. I think SmackDown was shorter as well. And I tried, because when I stopped watching like the A shows and that, I always made sure that I tuned in for WrestleMania. And it just got to the point, it was hard work. It was actually hard work to sit and watch sports entertainment, and that's when I was like, you know what, fuck this. I'm just done. I can live my life without wrestling.
What's your top 3, Ollie? And if you don't mention the Extreme Elimination Chamber, I'm just going to leave the chat.
It's the I think they did 2 Extreme Elimination Chambers, so I'm just going to do both of those. And I think so.
After the first one, how could they possibly have said, let's go for the second?
Or did they do 2 Dismember to Decembers? December to December. and there were 2 Extreme Elimination Chambers. I don't know, maybe one was too many, I'm misremembering. But actually, yes, the Elimination Chamber is an absolute favourite of mine. I just love the concept of it, and to actually like go into the Extreme Elimination Chamber, you lock in 6 blokes inside this massive steel cage that's like made of chains and high shit, and why do you need to make it extreme? It's already extreme.
Yeah.
I love the booking of Goldberg. Was it and I can't remember, was it like a SummerSlam Elimination Chamber?
Yeah, and he got screwed. He actually got screwed.
Yeah. I don't find him that sympathetic a guy, so I don't feel that bad for him, but he was one of the best booked gimmick matches of all time, I think.
We didn't have like Sky and that back in the day, so I could only watch WCW, so I was a huge Goldberg guy.
Right.
But yeah, obviously looking back on it, I hated his second run in the WWE, because again, when I saw that, I was like properly marking out, and it really underwhelmed me. Again, for number 2, I'm going to say a hair versus hair match. I
can think of one in particular that's tickling your fancy, Ollie.
It was actually Edge Kurt Angle.
Oh.
I really liked the Edge Kurt Angle hair versus hair match, because wasn't that like the opening match, and then the rest of the pay-per-view was like Edge chasing Kurt Angle around?
I don't know.
Okay,
I just love the fact that if we want to put over Angle one more time, we can say the man lives for the gimmick. He's still not growing that hair back. Wink,
again,
nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
I think it was a case of he was going bald at that time, and his wife was like, "You should shave it off," and he was like, "Right, I'm gonna fucking run with the ball here.
Brilliant.
I'm gonna go out on my back to Edge, and then I'm gonna have him chase me around for a whole pay-per-view trying to shave me bald." And again, yeah, Kurt Angle, commitment to the cause. God bless you, Kurt Angle. But obviously, yeah, there's not a lot that's already been said for good gimmick matches. But I do enjoy the comedy of a hair versus hair match.
Well,
Did you see the one? I think it was Raven and Shane Douglas.
Yeah.
And I heard versus hair, and there was no comedy in that because Raven got sheared and he's like was bleeding.
aye.
I love the fact that we're completely no selling that Lewis is itching to bring up that hair versus hair match.
That's not the one you're thinking of.
No, for that hair versus
It's the
hair.
Molly Holly versus Victoria one from Mania 20. But the minute she gets locked in the chair and they start cheering on the Madison Square Garden crowd's like, yay, yay, and then 5 minutes later, yay, and then it's like 2 minutes later, like, this is fucking horrible. Like, we're watching a woman get shaved bald and she's screaming in agony, and it's like, this is not fun. This is not, and it actually goes on because it takes that long to cut off her hair that the Guerrero Angle match starts, and Kurt Angle just looks at this bald woman being sheared, and he continues to do his triumphant walk to the ring. It's just like, turn that shit off.
I feel like if there was ever such a thing as a website on the dark web dedicated to things that sadists can buy to get their rocks off, WrestleMania 20 is going to be in the middle of that basket. And it's just going to be that disc that's in it, not the other two.
For the other hair versus hair match, Lewis and everyone else at home is thinking of, that is the chaos theory. That is the point where the butterfly flapped its wings. And that is the point where nuclear war with Iran started. Donald Trump going over as the face at WrestleMania 23 is the reason why the world will end.
God damn it, Vince.
And top of the tree, again, we spoke about Hell in a Cells, but for me, that Triple H versus Shawn Michaels Hell in a Cell at Bad Blood, it was it was absolutely incredible.
With Kevin Nash as a special guest, is that one?
I think so. Was he a special guest? Yeah.
Yeah, special guest referee. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a really
I don't know. I struggle. The second I see a screwdriver, I struggle, to be honest with you. I just can't, kind of thing. I just can't. Albeit, I'll give my respect to anyone that leaves it all out there, especially if we're talking in a literal sense. But
I think for me that rivalry between the two of them as well, it's got to be one of my absolute favourites.
It's what saved Michaels for me. Michaels, when he came back, is totally different to the guy that I've been ripping for 4 episodes straight.
Yeah.
It's a totally different person.
And I completely agree. And like I said the other week, when I talk up Shawn Michaels being the greatest for me, I'm talking post 2000 Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
Because I think looking back on it, I can't name an incident in the 21st century where I was disappointed by Shawn Michaels, or where I watched a Shawn Michaels match and be like, oh God,
Yeah.
It would have been a bit better for me. Yeah, that 2 out of 3 falls match they had as well. Absolutely incredible. I can't speak highly enough of it.
Can we incorporate the Triple H versus Shawn Michaels versus Vacant match from Mania 20 into that feud then?
No, it wasn't Vacant. It was Redacted.
Oh, right.
They faced off against Redacted.
See, all context aside, what a weird way to crown a new champion, eh? Like, no build. Just throw him in there and put the belt on him, because by fuck, we don't know what to do with these other two.
It also felt like they were having a threesome, and Redacted was just stood on the side waiting for his moment to jump in.
I already mentioned Redacted before. If we're gonna, if we're trying to keep cool to likely sponsors,
we're gonna have to go back to that episode and just bleep Redacted out.
It was 5 minutes ago. I said that Redacted and Kurt Angle is some of the best matches I've ever watched.
Shit, yeah.
And I don't take it back.
You've really fucked us over on this, haven't you, Cameron?
I miss you, Benoit.
I don't take it back at all, but at the same time, you can separate Redacted the murderer from Redacted the wrestler. And at the same time, despite the fact we try to forget who Redacted was, I always feel like the Fed got away very, very lightly with it as well.
Yeah, they were just as guilty as anyone else in that whole fiasco. What a weird way to fucking round up our gimmick match roundup.
I was about to say, I'm actually quite sad now.
Yes.
Just start playing the new generation music.
Thank you!
Join us next week for In Your House 4, The Great White North.
Remember, keep it redacted, folks. Thank you for listening.
I'm Lewis. No. Yeah, I think that's us addressed our favourite gimmick matches, haven't we?
It's redacted from me, and it's redacted from him.
Right, guys. Just like I said, next week, In Your House, The Great White North. Till then,
Thanks for listening.
thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Very much.